Why is the circadian system important? I think we all have a sense of how we feel when we haven't gotten enough sleep, and how that affects both our physical well-being and our mental well-being. But we've also realized in the past few years that circadian clocks not only are housed in the brain and control when we're asleep and when we're awake, but there are circadian clocks in virtually every cell of the body. And so misalignment or disruption of that circadian clock results in profound impairments in health and function in different systems like the cardiovascular system, like metabolism, like the gastrointestinal system, the renal system. All physiologic systems in the body are affected by the circadian clocks and the disruption of that as a result. So in school-age children, total sleep time is approximately 10 to 12 hours. And these are about the most physiologically alert human beings on Earth. So daytime sleepiness, although there may be some interesting cultural differences, in general, elementary school-age children do not nap. And if they're napping, that's a big red flag that indicates that either the quality or the quantity of the sleep that they're getting is compromised in some way. This is also an age where children may start to declare what we call circadian preference or chronotype. So they're either morning larks or they're night owls. And in general, younger children have a morning preference. So they're much more likely to be morning larks. It's also a time when things like school activities, electronic media, particularly in the evenings and in the bedroom, later bedtimes, sometimes earlier wake-up times, and irregular sleep-wake schedules. So a discrepancy in sleep patterns between weekdays and weeknights tends to start to emerge in elementary school. And parents are oftentimes less aware of sleep problems, and they may be less, may supervise sleep in these age children, particularly as they get older. I just want to touch on something that's a little complex, but I think is important to understand, which is called the two-process model of sleep regulation. So how sleepy or alert we are at any given time of the day is essentially determined by two things. One is what we call the sleep drive, and that has a biological basis. It's probably due to the accumulation of certain chemicals in the brain the longer we are asleep. So the sleep drive builds fairly exponentially across the course of the day and then is dissipated over a night's sleep. Sometimes in concert with that homeostatic sleep drive and sometimes opposing it is the circadian drive towards alertness, which essentially has as its principal biomarker melatonin. And that is a series of predictable peaks and troughs of relative sleepiness and alertness throughout the course of a 24-hour day. So that we all tend to have a dip around 3 to 5 in the afternoon where we feel relatively more sleepy. And then we have this surge in alertness just before our bodies are ready to fall asleep, which we call the forbidden zone or the second wind phenomenon. So this line on this graph represents the combination of these two forces, the homeostatic drive towards sleep and the circadian drive towards wakefulness. And this is in a typical school-age child. Well, just imagine all of this shifting later by 2 to 3 hours, which is what happens in adolescence. And so that forbidden zone, that surge in alertness, also occurs 2 to 3 hours later. So now instead of occurring at 9 o'clock, it's occurring at 10 or 11 o'clock. In addition, the lowest dip in the 24-hour day of alertness is between 3 and 5 in the morning for most of us. If that's also shifted, that lowest level of alertness becomes more like 5 to 7 in the morning, which is just the time that we're asking many of our adolescents to wake up and be ready and function during the day.